Yesterday during my live stream, I talked about what I plan on doing once Grounded is finished. This video is for those of you that missed that stream. Before we begin, I want to thank Handsome Ivan, Lyndon Dade, Mateo Solis, Matthew Campbell, Stephen Van, the Overseer 91, and all my other channel members and patrons for helping make videos like this possible. If you want to support the channel by becoming a member or patron, check the links down in the description. Thanks again to all my channel members and patrons. Let's get started. So as we know, right now the plan is for Grounded to exit early access and game preview in September. We're not sure when in September, but that is currently the plan. Full release will be sometime in September. Prior to that, we're expecting there to be at least one more update in public test server. That has been confirmed by the developers. I'm personally expecting it to be at the end of the month during the week where they do their 2-year anniversary stream. So it'll be the birthday stream. So sometime at the end of July, last week, most likely, that's when I think it's going to be. I don't have any inside information about that, but that's kind of just logically when it would make sense. It would also give the developers probably about 2 months time to fix any issues and address any last minute things they needed to address before the full release sometime in September. More likely than not, the release will probably be towards the end of September, I would guess, just to give them the most possible time. Although, like I said, I don't have any knowledge of when exactly it's going to be, but that's just my speculation. And I don't think there's going to be more than one update between now and September. Just doesn't make sense for them to do one in like July or August and then squeeze another one in. I think more likely than not, it's just going to be that one. I do not expect there to be a public test server for the 1.0 update because I'm pretty sure they want to hold back all of the content for full release. So with that out of the way, what are my expectations for after Grounded full releases? Now, for me, I'm going to be like just straight up front, and personally, I do not believe there's going to be any content after 1.0. The developers have already said that there's not going to be any story content planned after 1.0. Of course, there's always a chance things could change, but right now there was no plan for any story to be added after 1.0. The story will be concluded, which means the game will be finished. Now, they did say that they were going to be doing bug fixes and maybe adding some other stuff. Things I think that might get added after 1.0 would be cosmetic things, like perhaps more building pieces. Maybe they'll fill in some of the building pieces that are missing, like maybe vertical half walls or triangle pieces that you could put on the walls that fill in the roof spaces, things like that. And then, of course, stuff bugs for probably all the insects in the game, maybe wall mounts for all the insect or wall head mounts for all the insects in the game, stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I see being added. Maybe they do stuff like maybe painting walls or changing colors of walls. Maybe they'll have some kind of accessories or cosmetics or something for the character, so maybe you can change your character's clothes or the way they look, stuff like that. That's the kind of things I see being added after 1.0. I don't expect there to be a ton of stuff. One thing I'm hoping what might happen, but there's been literally zero talk about it, is the thing that was on the feature board, which was the player-generated content. That's the kind of thing that could potentially add life to the game after 1.0, because honestly, in my opinion right now, and I know a lot of people are saying I'm kind of being pessimistic about this, but I'm just kind of looking at it from a realistic standpoint and looking at other games. After 1.0, more likely than what's going to happen is if there's not any new content added, and by new content I mean actual like new things to do, not just random cosmetic stuff and stuff like that or building pieces, the far majority of the people are going to have been finished with the game. They're going to complete the story within a couple of weeks. More likely than not, by October and November, the bulk of the players will be finished with it, and they won't come back unless there's something added, maybe a DLC or something like that. As of right now, there's been no discussion or even like mention of DLC possibly coming. And to me, honestly, I think that what's probably going to happen is most of the development team is probably going to be moved on to either Avowed or the Outer Worlds 2, or maybe some other project that Obsidian's working on. Right now, they have Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2. Those are the two big projects that we know of that are going to be like AAA RPG games that currently do not have release dates. And I was expecting Avowed to possibly be mentioned during the Xbox Game Showcase this year with a release date maybe at the end of the year. There was rumor that might be released, or that information might come out. But there was no mention of Avowed at all, which means it's more likely than not coming until late 2023, because Starfield's coming in early 2023 from Bethesda, and I don't see Microsoft releasing two major RPGs on top of each other. That wouldn't make sense. They'll probably stagger those out a little bit. And because it wasn't shown in the Xbox Game Showcase at all, that means it's currently not expected to happen between now and next June, so the first half of the year, which means more likely than not, it's probably planned for the end of 2023, although it might slip into 2024. I have heard rumors that there were maybe some development issues there, that they're taking a little bit longer than expected. Things were coming up. So not sure exactly what's the truth, what's not the truth, but all we know right now is that game is not, there's nothing about that game. We haven't seen anything aside for that trailer, and there hasn't been really much mention of it. So moving any of the developers over to that to help that game get along quicker is definitely probably in the cards, because that's going to be a AAA game. It's going to be a game that possibly could generate them significant revenue from sales from Steam and on PC just in general. And honestly, it would make sense for them to move them over there because that game is going to have a far more wider appeal than a niche survival game, even though we all love niche survival games, or else you probably wouldn't be watching my channel. So that's kind of where I'm thinking of what is going to happen. Now, with that in mind, I will say that my current plan is once Grounded's finished, once 1.0 comes out, of course, I'm going to play through the 1.0 update. I plan on, as long as our saves are able to be transferred over without any kind of hiccups or anything, to continue my main existing save that I've been playing solo and just finish that out because I've farmed a bunch of resources. I'll be able to jump right in and do the new content. I also plan on, most likely right now, I'm on the fence about this, but I do plan on probably starting fresh. Not sure if I want to do a fresh solo playthrough. I was kind of talking to some people about doing a co-op playthrough after 1.0. I definitely plan on playing with my kids, although that's not going to be streamed or anything like that. I'm not going to make videos on that, but I might give some kind of maybe one impression video or something about how they feel about the game, how they felt about the game after it was completed, since they played it during early access a little bit, but we really haven't played it that much lately. And that's where I'm kind of at right now. Now, of course, this could all change if for some reason the developers come out and say, yeah, we're going to be doing a couple major updates after 1.0. We're going to add some more content, stuff like that. Or they say, hey, a DLC is in the works, and they give us some kind of like idea of when it's coming. Maybe if it was a couple months after full release, like end of the year, early next year, then I would consider sticking with the game. But where we stand right now, what I'm kind of thinking is once I finish those playthroughs, more likely than not, I'm going to end up doing some updated videos that I kind of feel like need updating on my channel. Some of the main videos, like the things I wish I knew sooner, stuff like that, perhaps best building locations, the Milk Molar videos, the high-level guide, stuff like that, I plan on doing over or updating basically, so because things have changed and there'll be more stuff added, because there's definitely going to be more Milk Molars added. At least a couple of the locations have changed, and along those lines, then maybe some stuff like what's the best armors, best weapons, and stuff like that. I do plan on kind of looking at that. No guarantees on what I'm going to make. It's just kind of, I'm going to do what I feel like needs to be updated and what's going to be helpful to people. Because in the end, I don't want to make videos just for the sake of making them. That's why I've been making far fewer videos lately than I had been just probably like 6 months or so ago, where I was making pretty much a video. I was making videos pretty consistently. Now I've been cutting back and only doing like 2 or 3 a week, sometimes less, depending on if there's not really much to do. But after I basically finish with the game, I do not plan on doing. I'm not just going to stick with the game for the sake of sticking with it. So that's where we kind of are. So the question then came up when I talked about it on the stream was, well, once you're moved on, because it seemed like most of the people in the stream were kind of in the same boat as me. There's a couple of people that said they'd probably stick with the game, but for the most part, it seemed like people were like in the same boat with me, where it was like, yeah, once the game's finished and once we've done everything, we've done it a couple times and everything like that, they're not going to stick around just for the sake of sticking around. They're just going to play through the game, enjoy it, enjoy the final ending to it, and then move on. And then, of course, if something gets added, they'll come back to it. But for the most part, they'll just be moving on to something else. So the big question was, what game's next, or what's the next game you're going to be looking at? Because if you follow my channel in any way, or if you go back and look at the history, you'll see that my channel originally started with Fortnite Save the World. I got a decent amount of subscribers from that. Nothing super big. Then I moved on to Scrap Mechanic, where I ended up getting monetized, getting a couple thousand subs. That was my first couple thousand subs. Then later on, I ended up moving over to Grounded. I just happened to stumble upon Grounded, decided to do it. It took off, and I've gained the far majority of my views, subscribers. Most of you are probably here because of Grounded. So that game kind of blew my channel up. So, of course, people were saying, well, you'll just find your next game and you can just do what you did before. Your channel didn't die after Scrap Mechanic. It won't die after Grounded. You'll just find another game. But for me right now, there's no games on the horizon that I'm just like really definitely looking forward to. The game that's at the top of my wish list is Nightingale. Nightingale is going to be PC only, which means most of the people that watch my channel will not be able to play it, because most of the people that watch my channel are playing on console. So I don't want to really alienate everybody at one time. That would kind of not make sense to me. And honestly, that game's going to end up being early access. I have no idea how long the early access is planned for. I'm really waiting till the end of the year to see kind of where it falls into place, see if they give kind of some kind of roadmap. Because honestly, I'm kind of burned out on early access games. Grounded is just the latest game in the long lineage of early access games I played. I played Fortnite Save the World. I played Scrap Mechanic. I've played Valheim. Just recently played V Rising, and finished up Raft, because Raft finally fully released after 4 years. And playing most of those games, they're fun up to a certain extent, but then eventually it just kind of, you get burned out on them because it's like the same stuff over and over again, waiting long periods of time for updates, or just waiting years for, like, as an example, scrap mechanic, it's been over 2 years. There's been no major updates to survival mode, and that's just been super frustrating. When you find a game you really like and then you just kind of do everything and get burned out on it, you just want to move on to the next thing. And for someone who's just playing a game, if you're just a casual gamer or just a hardcore gamer, it doesn't even matter. If you're not a content creator, that's just easy. You just go put down the game and move on to the next one. But when you're focused your entire content on a single game, and then that game kind of like loses popularity or you kind of get bored of it, it's just really hard to jump from game to game to game. Even when you're larger, like my channel's not super big, but it's much bigger than it was before. If I just do variety stuff right now, it just doesn't do well on my channel for the most part, especially during live streams. When I do anything besides Grounded, I only get about a quarter of the viewers, and that's cool. I definitely appreciate those of you that stop by for those streams or that are interested in looking at other games. But right now, there's no next game. And if there was a next game, I don't know if I even wanted there to be a next game. There's a couple games I have in my mind that were like long term that I was looking forward to, but they just I have no information on them. I have no idea when they're going to come out. And honestly, if you're going to build your channel around a game, and this is just kind of like a thing, I know some of you are probably thinking about creating a channel. Maybe you have a smaller channel and you're looking at ways of growing. Picking a single game and sticking with it, especially if it has even if it has a little, like, I don't want to say cult following, but like a niche following, like Grounded. Grounded did have 10 million players, but most of those people aren't playing the game right now. There's probably 10, 20, 30,000 people that are actively playing the game, something like that maybe. Definitely only through Game Pass, because there's only a couple thousand on Steam. But even with a small following like that, you can grow your channel pretty significantly. As you can see, I picked up I think probably like 18 or 19,000 subscribers when I moved over to doing Grounded full time. So you can definitely grow your channel, but the problem comes is what happens when you get bored of the game, or the game either doesn't finish development, takes too long, things along those lines. It just gets super hard to keep making videos when you run out of ideas. And honestly, at this point, I'm running really thin on ideas. Obviously, like I said, there's some things I want to update between now and 1.0, but I'm kind of holding out on some of them because I really don't want to make an update video and then a month later have to do another update video. So just a thing to think about is kind of looking at, like, you can grow your channel in one game, but ideally you'd want to maybe try to grow your channel in a single genre if you're going down gaming or something along those lines. Maybe pick survival games, you just do general survival games. Maybe pick MMOs, do MMOs, FPS games, whatever it's going to be. Just sticking to one game, it is good for growing, but it's also going to put you in between a rock and a hard place later on when that game loses popularity. So with that said, what am I going to do next after Grounded? So this would probably be obviously like sometime towards the end of the year. So obviously after 1.0, I'm not dropping Grounded now. I want to stick with Grounded through 1.0. I want to see how the game finishes, see if there's any kind of videos that I can do that can make the game more helpful for people, especially the newer players, because I'm sure there's going to be a massive influx of new players when 1.0 drops. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not like a top seller on Steam, and it also ends up being in the top 10 on Game Pass, just because it'll be on Game Pass. And it'll just, because obviously it's included, there'll be tons of people drawn into it. I just think there's going to be a huge influx followed by a quick outflux. So during that huge influx, there's going to be lots of people interested in the game. They're going to be looking for information. Hopefully they'll look at my channel and some other channels that have put out good information over the last year or two. And that's kind of where we stand with that. But what's the kind of content I want to do after that? Like I said, I don't want to be tied to a single game. So the kind of stuff I've been looking at, and this is all up in the air, like I haven't made any solid decisions yet, or really haven't made 100%. Nothing's concrete. There's still things that can change. But one of the kind of videos I've been doing mixed in here or there, you probably noticed, is I do review videos sometimes. I don't do a lot of them. I kind of pick and choose the ones I do. Typically, if I do a review video, it's going to be for a game that I think might be somewhat interesting to my audience, but is also not going to be like super saturated in terms of YouTube. Games like recently, I wanted to do a review on V Rising, which many of you may or may not have played. I'm not sure. If you're on PC, it was one of the most popular PC games recently for like a month or two. It's kind of fallen off pretty quickly. That game was covered by lots of large channels, so it wouldn't even have mattered if I did a review video. It wouldn't have mattered. But other games I did recently, like Lens Island, I did a Core Keeper, Is It Worth Playing? I did Breakwaters and a couple other games. Those videos did pretty well. The Core Keeper video, I think, has over 100,000 views. So it did pretty well because that wasn't a game that was like super popular. But when people went and searched, they're like, oh, this game's popped up on Steam and it looks like it's popular, or it could be popped up on a different service like Game Pass, or it's just console or whatever. Hey, this game's kind of popular. Is it any good? And when they do go search, my reviews come up. So I want to kind of do stuff like that if I'm able to. But honestly, that's a lot of that depends on whether or not I get access to the games ahead of time. If you don't have a review video up the day the game launches, even if it's like early access, you kind of got to have that video up the day it launches. So if I get early access to some games and can put out honest reviews, then I'll do it. I'm not going to do it just for the sake of doing it. And honestly, I need to have enough time because I've gotten codes for other games and I just they didn't give me enough time to make review videos from them. So I just didn't rush it just for the sake of doing it. So I'll kind of pick and choose on those, kind of looking at games that fit in line with what I've been doing. The games I just mentioned were all survival games in the survival genre, so they kind of fit in with the games I had been covering. And then in addition to that, I still want to do some tips and tricks videos and maybe like high level stuff like the wish I knew sooner things. Those videos tend to do really well. I think they are helpful for all players for a game while not being too spoilerish. One thing I've been looking at is the type of videos I've been doing, and we'll get to this in the next section where I talk about the kind of videos I don't want to do, but doing tips and tricks videos or high level videos of like, here's some things that will make your game experience easy, like easier, more efficient, it'll just make your experience more enjoyable without like spoiling everything. I want to kind of maybe do some videos like that, depending on if I find a game that I think it's worth doing on. And then after that, maybe general gaming videos and topics, just kind of looking at maybe the general gaming industry in general, maybe specific games. I mean, lately there's been stuff like the Diablo Immortal thing, the Blizzard stuff, all like Ubisoft, like all these big companies, things going on, maybe stuff like that, looking at what they're doing and things like just kind of stuff like that, general gaming, which would appeal to maybe everyone, even looking at stuff like maybe Game Pass or the PlayStation Plus, things like that, where there's different services. Are they worth going into? What kind of values in them? I've done videos like that in the past that have done okay as well. And then maybe deep dives into successes and failures. So this is a big thing that I've seen like several channels do really well on. Usually they focus on the failures. It's like the downfall of insert this channel or game, stuff like that, or the death of this game. I don't want to necessarily focus 100% on failures. I'd like to look at both. There's some games I already have on like the list that I've been looking at and doing some research on that I think will be interesting. I'm going to try to focus on games that many of you would probably either have played or would have access to playing, not just some obscure stuff, but games that have definitely had either success or failure. So kind of stuff like that. That'll get down my scratch the analytical itch that I have. And then in addition to that, maybe look at the business side of gaming. Again, looking at stuff like, is Game Pass worth it? Is it good value? Are these games worth it? Looking at maybe like microtransactions, the free-to-play models and stuff like that, just to kind of look at that kind of stuff. Because like I said, I have an analytical mindset, and that's just kind of like what I like. That's what I like doing, and that's where I can provide the most value going forward. And then last but not least is going to be the type of content I don't want to make. And this might surprise some of you, because if you look at my channel, most of my videos are going to fall into at least a couple of these categories, if not all three of them. The first one's going to be guides and walkthroughs, and I'm probably going to do an entire video on why I don't want to do these. But really the short of it is I thought about this after watching another video by Josh Strife Hayes. He was doing MMO videos, but now he does general gaming stuff, kind of like that. And one of his videos from I think a year or so ago was something like do guides ruin MMOs or something like that. The whole point of the video was how people put out guides, and basically what ends up happening is people just focus on the meta of everything and only doing that stuff and not actually enjoying the game, and they just want to blow through the game. And while I look at my guide videos and I think they're helpful, I look at a lot of them and I'm like, somebody came to my stream just when I was today, as I'm recording this, they came to my stream today and they said, do you have any tips for me? And I said, my tip for you is to not watch most of my videos. If you want to watch any of my videos, watch the ones that are the Wish I Knew Sooner, or the one where I did recently, which was an updated version, which was after 500 hours, my best tips. Those are things where I give kind of general gameplay tips that will help you along without fully spoiling the game. But if you go through and just like, as an example, using Grounded, because that's the game I've been covering, making videos where it's like how to do the Hedge Lab, how to do the Haze Lab, the average person should be able to get through those. They're not like super complicated. So I don't really find those necessary. And honestly, I kind of feel like they ruin the experience. I mean, recently I played through Dismantle, which took me about 75 hours to 100% the game. I didn't look up any guides. I didn't watch any videos. I didn't watch anybody stream it. I didn't watch anything of it. I just started the game up and started playing it. And I played it from start to finish. And by the way, it's on everything. So if you're watching this, no matter what you're gaming on, I don't know if it's on mobile, but it's on every console, I'm pretty sure. And on PC, obviously it's on Steam. It's a fantastic survival game. I might do a whole video on that just as like a showcase of the game, because it's fantastic. It does a lot of things right. But I played through that whole game and I didn't look up anything until I had already completed the entire main quest. I'd already done, I think, all the side quests at that point. And I basically had done everything except for some trivial things for achievements, which was like finding buried treasures, because in the game there's different digging spots you can find. Now, normally I'll just find them through the course of my searching around, but some of them were kind of like obscure. And I wasn't going to sit there and spend 100 hours just looking for those. So I did look up the last couple of those, as well as a couple of other like cooking recipes that I didn't find. And I didn't need any of these things to beat the game. I beat the entire game, had great fun. And I was like, you know what? I'm like 95% of the way there. Let me just look up the last couple of things. So I went online and looked at the wiki, found those things, and I finished the game out. That's the kind of stuff I want to do. I think games are more enjoyable if you experience them yourself without basically getting your hand held the entire time. And then if you hit a wall or if you can't figure something out, then you go look something up. So that's why I kind of want to like stray away from the in-depth guides and walkthroughs. Not saying I'll never do them again, but like I'm just going to pick and choose where I do videos like that. And I really like to focus on more high-level stuff that's just in general can be helpful to people. Second kind of videos I don't want to do are going to be the ones I've been doing for Grounded, which were the feedback for specifically early access games. I'm just tired of doing those. I put a lot of time and effort into them. I look at things that were changed in the game. I come up with solutions to them. I propose them. Lots of people agree with me. The developers obviously can see the information. I share it with them. And then if the things don't change, you know what? I can't really do anything about that. It's not my game. All I can do is give my feedback. But here's the thing. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm at the point where I don't really want to play early access games anymore. I'd rather just wait for a game to be fully finished and play through it like I did with Dismantle. I bought Dismantle in early access. I played it for an hour and then never touched it again. I uninstalled it. And then I picked it up a couple weeks ago, 6 months after it fully launched, and played through the whole game and had great fun. It had a really good early access period. It had updates pretty much every month, I believe. The developer was very transparent. When things were taking longer than expected, they provided that. They basically told people that. The game finished, I think, only a couple months after it was supposed to. I think initially it was supposed to be a year, and it took maybe like 16 months or something. I could be off a little bit by the time frame, but essentially it finished in roughly the time they said it was going to take. Got continuous updates, did everything right. But if you had started in the beginning of early access and played through it, you would have probably had a similar experience you had through Grounded. You're playing up to a certain point, then you hit a wall and you have to wait for an update. Then you play that chunk and you have to wait. You hit a wall and you have to wait for an update. And I'm just kind of like done with that kind of game playing through games. At this point, I just want to, unless a game is early access and it has thousands of hours of content for me to play, which is just probably not going to happen, or it's going to be a live service game that's just going to be updated continually, I'm just probably going to avoid them for now because I just don't want to go through this process again where I just get frustrated waiting for months, weeks, months, years for updates. I'm just kind of done with that. And then last but not least, it's going to be Let's Plays. I've had lots of people ask me, you should do Let's Plays or do full series of games. I don't like doing them. I've tried to do them in the past. I've already said this. I've done them in the past. I don't really think they provide value. The only way they're going to provide value is if I have like other people playing with me and we're doing something that's different. Like if you look at the quote unquote Let's Plays for Minecraft and stuff like that, the original ones were literally just playing through the game. Same thing with many other games. Now, if you look at the popular videos in that genre, it's going to be more like a bunch of content creators getting together, doing goofy stuff or doing things out of the normal. So if I do something like that, that would be a series I would do. But I'm not just going to do here's my new game, let me just play through it and post videos of it and just edit down hours of footage into a 30-minute video every day. That's never going to happen. So that's kind of where I am. I know I talked for a long time here. If you stuck around to the end, thank you so much. Hopefully you guys are excited as I am for the 1.0 Grounded. I know it's kind of like a bittersweet ending because it's just going to be the ending, right? And it's going to end, and many of you are probably going to just stop playing the game like I'm going to stop playing the game. Hopefully, most of you will stick around and see what I have to do, what I plan on doing in the future. Hopefully, you'll stick around with other Grounded content creators because I'm sure most of them are going to be in the same boat as me. They're going to be looking for what they're going to be doing next. I don't think many of them, I don't know for sure, but I don't think many of them are going to stick around for 6 months to a year after the game's finished because let's be honest, 95 to 99% of the player base is just going to fall off a couple months after the 1.0 unless there's updates. And like I said at the beginning, if they do drop content after 1.0 that's actually meaningful, if they do give us a reason to keep playing, if they do say they're going to have DLC, stuff like that, then I'll certainly consider, I'll keep playing the game. But after 1.0, no more guide videos, nothing like that for Grounded. I'm just going to move on to other stuff because that's what I want to do. That's when it's going to make me the most enjoyable for me. When I do streams, I'm going to pick a game and stream it, talk to the community, see what they're interested in seeing, maybe play some games with some other content creators just to get some just cross-pollination of communities there, have some more fun because playing with friends is definitely more fun than just running solo and doing stuff like that. So anyway, that's what I plan on doing. If you found the video interesting, if you plan on sticking around, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you hit the like button, help me out in the algorithm. I'm sure if you made it this far, you've already subscribed, but if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.